Welcome to Hustlers at Home.
Hi.
I'm so grateful we were able to connect today. It is miserable in New York City. What's the weather like where you? Where you're in Rhode Island? Give me the
Yeah.
tea.
So it's the same. It's the same. I mean, the thing about the weather in New England is, if you don't like it, you just wait a minute and it changes. So I've been here for, God, I've been 37 days. I mean, I've been here for over a month now, and we've had beautiful weather. We've had a hurricane. We had full on snow. So it's but today a little bit gloomy. So it's I've got my ring light turned on super high, so it's like a
Yeah,
sad
we need
light.
all the help we can get. So speaking of weather or news, tell me about your past life as a camera news reporter. Like what was that? What was that like?
Oh, I love to talk about it too,
I
because it's
know,
like
it's awesome.
it's because it's what I always wanted to do, Robin. Like even as a kid, I would wake up on an early weekday morning and watch the 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. news, and I knew I wanted to be a newscaster. And so, if I did everything I could to become a newscaster, went to school for it, and really realized, kind of as I cut my teeth in the industry, that, not only was it a very cutthroat industry, I didn't totally love the lifestyle. And to be honest with you, the sacrifices that I had to make in order to be good at my job. And,
Like what?
maybe
Like
some in the
what?
industry.
Like what?
Well, mainly because there was a moment when I got towards the end, and this is when I was a full-on reporter. I was doing local news. I asked myself the question of whether or not I was helping people, if what I was doing was making a difference, because I realized that the stories that I was working on were some of the more sad type stories, such as, a young teenager getting hit in the middle of the road, and then I would
Yeah.
have to take my camera and knock on the front door of that child's parents' house and truly ask them how they were feeling.
Yeah.
The worst moment in their entire life, and then some chump kind of, with a camera knocks on their door. That's when I realized that I had to make the change. Now that's, that was my experience. That's not everybody's experience. I'm sure if I really stuck around, I would be able to tell stories that were really meaningful, and likely make a difference. But I lost my steam for it. I knew that I still wanted to tell stories, but I guess I never realized that a job like the one we have now could have ever existed back then. So, ultimately ended up where I wanted to be.
Well, now we get to tell different stories on camera. And I have to ask you, you are the king of, or queen, however whatever crown you want to wear.
It depends. What day is it? It's Wednesday.
Yeah. What day is it?
Okay,
exactly.
so
What do I feel like wearing today?
I'm feeling queenie. It's Patty LuPone's birthday, by the way. I'm feeling queenie. So
there we go.
It's the Queen's birthday too. It's Queen Elizabeth's birthday as well.
Okay, so clearly we need to put our crowns on. So you are the queen of somehow being able to run on the tread in costume. Can you run down a few of the costumes, and which one was your favorite?
I mean, well, see, so I know it won't, once we get through this year, like it won't remain my favorite, because I feel like, as with any costume party, Robin, you would know that like the next year you always have to outdo yourself. So I'm already planning. I'm already planning to outdo yourself. But the Grinch, for sure. The Grinch. When I ran as Animal from the Muppets, that was actually a disaster. That was like it was bleeding all over me. I didn't realize that it was like marabou that had been dyed, and so the dye was just kind of coming off my chest. So the Grinch, we learned our lesson well. And, you know, with the help of Tunde, it was like I plastered that makeup on. And honestly, I would say running for 45 minutes dressed in the Grinch costume was harder than my half marathon.
Oh, I can't even imagine. And then like walk us through when you the Jess Sims moment. Like who thought of it?
Okay.
Like that's one of the most iconic surprises that's ever happened at Peloton.
So all right. So I had, as you do, I had multiple costumes for Halloween. So I had bought this kind of, you know, I don't know, it was on Amazon. It was like, it's like a 10-foot tall Grim Reaper costume. It's inflatable. You put the piece on your shoulders, and it came to my house. And now Halloween rolled around, and I was like, oh, I don't really have anywhere to wear this. Like, honestly, if I'm going to go to a party and dance with Cody and all the boys, I'm not going to be dressed in a Grim Reaper costume.
So like, just to paint the full picture, y'all, this was like, so Maddie, you're like 6 foot something, right?
I'm
and
6'2".
then 6'2", and then this is like 6 feet on top of your height. Like it's literally a 10-foot tall Grim Reaper costume. Okay,
Yes.
so you're at the tread studio. Like,
so
what goes down?
Okay, so you know, as you know, Robin, I like to keep people on their toes, but you know, I didn't want to get anybody hurt. So the night before we did it, I texted all of the bosses and say, hey, look, I have this costume, and I just think that, you know, I need a victim, and I know that hates Halloween. Is it okay if during her pre-show, I can scare her? And they said, let's just double check. Let's make sure. We made sure that she was looking at a different camera. She wasn't walking. She wasn't going to fall. I mean, God forbid she fell off the treadmill. I mean, and in her most graceful way. I mean, she didn't even swear. She stopped herself short of the F word. I believe she did say Jesus Christ, but she was just hoping she would be saved in the moment. And I don't know if you get it from the video. If you listen really closely, I got really close to her face because my head is in the chest. I go, trick or treat.
I didn't see that. I just saw, because we had the cameras rolling because she was really about to teach a tread class, and you just see you're like lumbering in this 10-foot tall costume, and poor Jess Sims. I mean, she jumped out of her skin and then like grabbed her soul back really quickly in the moment. It was like it was such a resilient moment that I was like, yeah, you're laying, but I was crying laughing when I saw this footage. Oh my God. So thank you for providing us with that moment of joy.
You're
I'm
welcome.
sorry to Jess Sims because
you're welcome. I just can't wait for the next. I can't wait for the next one. I just, I know she's going to try and get me back. And I've heard, April Fools came around and it was, the current climate didn't really lend April Fools for any April Fools jokes. But, now that she's had so much time to plan, I'm a little bit scared, but I feel like I'm going to outwit her on this. So we'll see. All
right. We'll stay tuned for that one. What's your go-to mocktail? So you have a new mocktail series on IGTV. What's the genesis of that? And what's your go-to mocktail?
Okay. Genesis is, I gigged for a long time. So, not only was I shooting for news before I was a reporter, I was an executive assistant. I was a bartender. So as you do. And so I was a bartender for almost 10 years at different restaurants out on Fire Island. So
That's a hustle. That's a hustle.
I mean, I learned a lot, to say the least. And there's nothing like, like at the end of the night, you have just a stack of wet dollar bills, just kind of sort of trying to get them apart. So that's fun. Dirty,
it's money,
fun.
Honey. You're still getting paid, okay?
There's a big bucket.
You're still making those dollar moves.
Totally. And so mixology became something that I really love. And I realized that, I'm home. went out. I'm here at my parents' house. My mother has this big, beautiful kitchen. I said, oh, let's we've got the Rachel Ray set up. Let's do some of my favorite mocktail recipes. And of course, I give the option for the folks that want a cocktail recipe. But I think, again, because we're Peloton, we're a fitness brand. I felt, and people are home with their kids, I felt that the mocktail recipes would be something that's really fun. So we've dropped the grapefruit rosemary agua fresca, which has a kombucha base. I don't know if I can drink. I've drank so much kombucha while I've been home. I think that my insides are essentially tickling. Can they tickle if you drink too much kombucha?
We have like pickled kidneys and pickled.
We're just in this state of fermentation. Currently
me too. I am the same.
We should tell all of our followers that we're fermenting.
Have you made your own kombucha? Because I'm a little bit scared of that. It's like a 2-month process. Like I did my whole Google rabbit hole thing and I was like, ooh, I'm going to become like a kombucha person. And then I was like seeing all these things of like glass bottles exploding and people, I'm like, I don't know if the lawyer and me can sign off for the liability of that.
Yeah, no. And I could never instruct anybody to make their own kombucha. I would be afraid. I would be afraid that we would, whatever the end result could potentially run like a diesel engine or something. So we'll be careful. But yeah, so every Thursday for the next, for 5 more weeks, I'm going to drop a new mocktail minute segment. So this week, actually, we're going to do virgin pina coladas because, judging by our weather, we all need to be in the tropics, and it's fun for the kids. I think kids like pineapple.
Bring your own sunshine. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to bring sweat to this body party, as you would say. Mm-hmm. And we're going to do rapid fire questions while you're in a 1-minute plank. And the number to beat is 12. Okay.
All right.
So it'll be a whole slew. I'm going to pick questions out of my little Mrs. Butler.
Look at this.
Maldives couch.
Making Drew proud. Love.
Yeah. And so we've got tons of questions in here. I'll pick them at random. So you let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
And I'll set a timer.
Here, I'm going to put down something for my elbows.
Yeah, you do you. It's
on the hardwood floor.
Hustler's choice on the plank.
Love. All right. Okay, how's this? And look at this in the new apparel, too.
You look amazing.
All right, you tell me when to lift my knees up and we go.
All right, ready? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's your coffee or matcha order?
Iced latte, skim milk.
Which instructor wears the most glitter?
Oh, Olivia.
You had to play the same song in every playlist. Which one would it be?
If I could turn back time.
What's your go-to post-workout meal?
Say that again?
Which post-workout meal?
Oh, steak.
Which tread instructor has the best sneaker collection?
Oh, Oliver.
What's the last type of Peloton class you took and which instructor was it with?
I just took Andy's 45-minute core boot camp.
What's the worst hairstyle you've ever had?
Oh, a bowl cut.
Name all the places you've lived. You have 15 seconds.
Providence in New York City. That's easy.
What's an article of clothing you'll always wear?
Probably these joggers, actually.
Time! All right, let's count it out. You did awesome. All right,
I don't know. I think it was only 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8. Because you gave me your post-workout meal. It was steak. So
okay.
Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's good.
Okay. All right. We didn't get 12, but we didn't
get 12.
We had some original answers.
For sure. And you actually had longer answers. Name all the places you've lived. I mean, that could have taken for some people
I know, right? Totally. I'm a simple boy.
So now you have the opportunity to put the host in the hot seat. If there's anything that you want to ask me or anything that you just want to let the fam, let the community know.
Well, see, I was thinking this. It's like, well, you and I, we do this weekly, which is really nice. And I'm honored to be able to have at least, 30 minutes to an hour with you almost every single week. So I was like, okay, how about some questions that I would never ask Robin in like a professional meeting?
Yeah, when you're not wearing your director of fitness programming hat. Yeah.
Totally. All right. So, all right. I've got a few. And if you don't want to answer them, you don't have to. And as you know, I was a journalist, so these are some fun ones. And then we'll end. Do you want to just start with the serious or end or
your choice?
Right, we'll do light first, and I'll turn into
the host is in the hot
Diane
seat.
Sawyer
it's all
later.
good.
Okay. Okay. I'm a firm believer in past lives, so I don't.
I love it. So am I. I totally
believe
in that stuff.
So who do you think you were in your most recent past life? So the person you were before this.
Okay. Most recent. I don't know. In my gut, I do believe that I was some type of warrior. And I don't know if that was my most recent past life, but I do totally believe in like all that spiritual connection and kind of how we recycle and renew in spirit in all different forms. And the first time I went to my acupuncturist, I walked through the door and he goes, he falls back. He's a very theatrical guy. And he was, which clearly I love. And he was like, "You were Mesopotamian royalty." And I was like, "Sign me up for 10 more sessions."
Like, you say that to everyone.
So if my acupuncturist is right, it was some type of regal being in thousands of years ago.
I love that. I would have. That's sort of. I don't know if I would have like zeroed in on Mesopotamia because it's very specific, very old. But that's amazing.
That's old school. That's the
as
OG.
As old as it can get. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. You on a regular basis tell people to take their power back, tell people to wear their crowns, and it's okay to brag a little bit. So I want to hear your best humble brag.
Ooh. I don't believe in humble brags. And here's why. Because if you have something to brag about, most people will do it for you. So you don't actually need to brag. But if you have a moment you're proud about that you want to proclaim, so instead of humble brag, let's start saying that we proclaim our pride. Because I think that takes the bragging out of it and it inserts the pride, which is what we can all celebrate. So I'm proclaiming pride in being a strong ass woman who takes no shit. That's the foundation for my life. And that is how I know how to ask for what I'm worth and add tax.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I think more people need to learn how to do that.
Yeah, because it pays it forward, right? So like when and a true hustler like would never ding someone, would never bemoan someone their celebration, because we know how hard we work for hours. So it's just like iron sharpens iron, real recognizes real, royalty recognizes royalty. Like I will always celebrate someone who is just standing in her power, standing in his power, standing in their power, because it's like, you earned that spotlight, like live. There's enough spotlight for us to go around.
I agree. Okay. If you were a drag performer, what would your drag name be?
Oh, okay. So immediately my mind goes to Dolly. Like I think I want to embody her spirit in all the ways. So it would probably be, it would be Dolly. It would be Dolly Amelia Lopez. So Dolly for Dolly. Amelia, which is my middle name and has been in every female with my middle name on my mother's side of the family going back to Spain has had Amelia. And Lopez after Queen J-Lo, because
of course,
who doesn't need more J-Lo? So that,
of course.
Yeah. What would your drag name be?
Oof. All right. Well, so like in college, and you know, again with drag, you know, a lot of it's been done. So in college, I was Tequila Mockingbird.
Okay, I like it.
But you know, drag has evolved so much. I, you know, it's probably something a little bit androgynous. Um, Obviously Cher is my
Yes, I was gonna think. I thought Cher
queen,
would have a moment
right?
in that.
And so, but maybe it's a single, like maybe it's just like a single name. I would say, but I always like a little play on words as well.
Yes.
Um, I should have had answers for the question that I. How about like something like, how about like share the wealth, or like.
Ooh, I like that. There's enough light to go around.
Share the wealth.
Share the
Well,
wealth. Okay, that
something
works.
like something
That's
like
so the
that.
answer. Yeah. Okay.
All right. I think. All right. I have a serious question. Can I change the tone, because it's something that
Let's
you
do
talk
it.
about a lot, or when you choose to talk about it. Of course, you had this, you know, incredibly traumatic experience being held hostage years ago. The person that held that wine bar hostage. Do you think about him, and do you forgive that person? Is he still living? I don't even
He
know that.
is. He's serving multiple life sentences right now in New York State. Um, I do think about him actually, because I do think about that experience pretty often. It's not triggering for me like it once was. And
Mhm.
it's only because I came to a place of forgiveness that it's not triggering for me. And I had to ultimately find compassion. It's an interesting unpacking because I see it as a very deliberate act to cause harm to people, which isn't forgivable. But
Right.
there is a human pain element. You know, what's the adage? Hurt people hurt people. So I had to really try to find the humanity in the situation because I didn't want to live with the poison of resentment. Because poison and self-pity are ultimately self-pity and resentment are ultimately poison. So I had to come to a place of forgiveness. So I just kind of try to and find ways to get my power back, which is, you
That's
know, on the
major.
bike, on the tread.
Of course. Yeah, it was a question I always kind of wanted to ask you, because I've never had, you know, we have ex-lovers, we have people that have hurt us, and I've never, I mean, hopefully many people haven't had a situation where truly a stranger tries to do something heinous and tragic to another group of strangers. So yeah, you know, that's definitely along the lines of the answer I felt like you would give. And you're right, like something that I recently I was just listening to Oprah Super Soul Sundays, and I think it was
Love
I
that.
mean, a lot of repeats, but she was interviewing Richard Rohr, who's like a Franciscan monk, and just, you know, listening to him speak about pain and suffering, and he said something that resonated with me, and it was like, if you don't transform your pain and your suffering, you will transmit that pain. And
Yeah.
you know,
Whoa.
and I was like, whoa, are you like speaking to me right now? This is crazy. And yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, if you don't forgive and move on, you just carry that with you forever. Anyway, well, I just wanted to
Well,
know that from you.
thank you, because
Thank you for sharing.
that's such like a genuine grounding moment to finish Hustlers at Home, this episode of Hustlers at Home with Matty Maggiacomo. Where can people find you? Where can they spill the tea with Matty?
Okay, easy. Instagram, if you've ever heard of it, at Matty Maggiacomo, if you know how to spell my name. On Facebook as well, my Peloton Facebook page. And yeah, take a look, you know, of course, the Peloton app. I'm doing a 21-day Encore 21. It's 21 days of core right now. I don't know if, you know, depending on when you're watching this. But yeah, you know, check us out. Take class, make mocktails. laugh.
Join the body party. Well, thank you, Matty. We so appreciate you taking time. I'm glad you're healthy and well, and I look forward to giving you a hug in person when this is all over.